Welcome to NAS, the National Ability Support System. This video will show secondary service providers how to add or edit their own data on a record that is returned by a different service provider who is the main service provider. There are now two options. You may already have a service recorded on a record, or this may be the first time you are providing a service to the individual. Depending on which scenario it is, the options will vary. To find the record you wish to edit or add a service to, go to Workflow. I will first look at the scenario where you already have a service against this record, but wish to add an additional service. You can either search by name or NAS ID. Because you already have a service against this record, you can search by your own service provider. We have made changes to the software this year, so now you have an edit option, whereas previously you only had view and print. The edit will bring you into the record, but only gives you edit option on the services tab. As before, you will have viewing option to the other tabs, but will not be able to make any changes. You can only make changes to the services tab. For this training purpose, I'm in the account under St. Paul's Child and Family Centre, and we can see that there is already a service there under this service provider, but now we wish to add another service. Click on Add New Service. So even though the record is being returned by CDNT Balbriggan, they are the main service provider. For this particular service, it defaults to St. Paul's because we have already logged in under their account. Select the service type you wish to record. I'm going to look at Respite Overnight, as this is one of the most common secondary services we have on NAS. Have a look at the list of the types of overnight respite and select the appropriate one for this service user. The support levels are the same as the full residential. Respite, both day and overnight, are captured within a calendar year by the HSE, so you can simply open up an episode for the beginning of the year. And at the end of the year, we will close this episode and be able to confirm the number of nights the person availed of. If you're starting this at the beginning of the year, you can use 0 as the number of nights just to open the episode, and at the end of the year, confirm the number of nights that were availed of. As with all services, we ask, does it require an enhancement? It may be too soon to know that, so you may select not known, or you may know that the person will need additional nights. Because you are adding a service to a record being returned by a different service provider, we will need to carry out a validation check to make sure that the data you are entering doesn't clash with existing data on the record. So click on Validation Check. And if no errors are returned, then you can click on Save and save the information. You will now see in the output screen that St. Paul's second entry has been added of Respite House and Community. Because this is new data that you're just putting up, we have confirmed that these services are correct because it is not old or legacy data. Now we look at adding a service to a record where you have not been involved with that person's care before. So again, go to Workflow to search for the record. You can either search by name or by NAS ID. This time, I will use NAS ID. Because you've not been involved with this person care before, if you click on Search by Own Service Provider, the record will not be returned. So in this case, you search the entire database. So here we have the record and a new option here of adding a secondary service. So click on this, and we just want you to confirm that this is the record you wish to add a service to. So the little alert that comes up says your service provider does not currently have services attached to this record. Are you sure you wish to access this record and add a service? And you say yes. And then you will be brought to a pop-up screen to add a service. Again, you will see that the service provider defaults to St. Paul, even though this record is being returned by a CDNT. Select the service type. This time we're going to look at day respite and the particular type of service, whether it's centre-based or maybe in the person's own home. The level of support is similar to day services, so you select from the staff to service user ratio. As with overnight respite, day respite is collected on an annual basis within a calendar year. So again, we can open an episode for January 24, and at the end of the year, we will close out that episode and confirm how many number of day sessions the person availed of. For guidance on day sessions, please refer to the system user manual, but it is recorded in sessions, not hours. And again, to identify if an enhancement is required or not. Click on the validation check to make sure there is no conflicting issue with the data. And if no alert is returned, then click on Save. Because you were not involved with this record before, you were brought to the workflow screen, and now you will see you have an edit option to go into the record, similar to the first scenario where you already had a record on a service on the record. So the next time you're putting up a service, you will not have to click on the Add a Secondary Service. You will have the Edit option. So again, we can see now that St. Paul's have added to this record day respite and that the services has been confirmed. As a secondary service provider, you do not have access to any other service provider's data, so you cannot edit or get into their data, only your own. So this is how you add a secondary service to a record where it is being returned by a different service provider.